Okay, good evening, colleagues. We are still dealing with organizational culture. We will start from where we stopped in the morning before we went for break. I think in the morning period or during the morning, we stopped at type of organizational culture. Types of organizational culture. I think that was where we stopped. So let's just talk about these types of organizational culture. Uh, there are different type of organizational culture as initiated by Hardy. Hardy was of the view that culture can be demarcated between power culture, the role culture, task culture, and of course person culture. In terms of power culture, according to Hardy, power culture depends on a central power source with influence throughout the organization. It depends on a central power. The culture depends on a central power source with influence throughout the organization. That is to say, within this culture, there will be a center of power, a kind of a top management who control or wield a big power in that particular organization and influences every other activities within the organization. So that is considered as, of course, a power culture. Then we have the next one, which is, of course, the role culture. The role culture is also sometimes called bureaucracy or bureaucratic culture or bureaucracy and work by logic. Bureaucracy, like I told you, work by logic and rationality. Can you see? They believe that anything that should be done within the organization must be rational. And when we talk about rational, economy come into play here. And of course, like I told you also when we dealt with bureaucracy, the strong pillar of the strong pillar of bureaucracy is of course specialization. That people are specialized, and according to your specialty, you can function within a particular department or within a particular silo within your organization. And of course, procedures. There are laid down rules and procedures of doing things under bureaucracy. And of course, everybody has a role to play. There are managers, there are subordinates, and of course, people have their role. People work according to the role that they are assigned within the organization. So no individual comes from outside with a role. There is already a role to play within the organization. And as you join the organization, you fit into the role that you are recruited, the purpose why you were recruited for that particular organization. Then the next one is, of course, the task culture. The task culture is mostly related to job or project-oriented culture or organization, project-oriented. It is seen as a net or a web, where some strands are stronger than the other. Example of project culture can be, or example of a task culture can be a kind of a matrix organization. Can you see? Matrix organization where, of course, as a result of the project, you may find yourself reporting to two managers. Can you see? So, or a kind of a project that people are assigned to execute a project within a particular time frame. Because the project is a task in itself, that is why it is also called a task culture, because the focus is on the tasks that have been assigned. Then the next one there is, of course, person culture. Person culture, in terms of organization, is within that particular organization, the individual is the central focus. The individual, you remember, in terms of raw culture, which is bureaucracy, the individual is not the main focus. The organization is the main focus. Can you see? In that case, individuals may come and go, but the organization and their roles and their specialization or function remains. Can you see? And in terms of person culture, individuals within the organization are the central focus. And structures exist. Structures exist to serve the individuals. Can you see? Structures exist to serve the individual, whereas in bureaucracy, individuals exist to serve the structure. Can you see? So those are the difference between, of course, role culture, which is bureaucratic, and of course, person culture. And for instance, also within an organization, when you have person culture, a group of people can band together and do their things while sharing office space, equipment, of course, clerical assistance. I remember there was a time also in my workplace where when I have to share my assistant with another colleague, and the assistant is reporting to both of us and assisting us in terms of executing some of our administrative tasks. So those are a very good example in terms of person culture. Know that in terms of role culture, the focus is on the organization, but in terms of the person culture, the focus is on the individuals within an organization. Is that clear? We progress. Type of organizational culture. Types of organizational culture. What are the types of organizational culture? In terms of types of organizational culture, we will borrow from the views of Deal and Kennedy. Can you see? According to Deal and Kennedy, we have different types of organizational culture. The first one there is tough guy or macho culture. The second one there is hard stroke play, work hard stroke play hard culture. The next one there is bet your company culture. Then the next one is, of course, a processor culture. With regards to tough guy or macho culture, the emphasis in terms of tough guy and macho culture is an organization with high risk and an organization that desires quick feedback. A good example of that could be a police department. Can you see? That falls into the tough guy or macho culture. They take high risk, and of course they need very fast and quick feedback. So that is a very good example. The police department would be a very good example of tough guy macho culture. Then the next one there is work hard stroke play culture. In terms of the work hard stroke play culture, what normally happens in that organization, or that organization emphasizes low risk, quick and of course quick feedback. And a good example of such organization is, for instance, estate agent or your fast food outlet, such as McDonald's, will fall under the work hard, play hard culture, which is of course low risk and of course quick feedback. Then the next culture there is bet your company culture. Bet your company culture, which emphasizes high risk and of course low feedback. High risk and low feedback. And a good example of such organization is of course oil companies. Can you see? Oil company involve high risk, but of course the time to turnover is of course slow feedback. It takes a while, So that is oil company falls under bet your company culture. Then the next culture there is the last one, which is of course the process culture. In terms of the process culture, the emphasis there is low risk and of course slow feedback. And a good example of organizations that are very low risk and slow feedback is an insurance company. Can you see? You can see people take insurance premium all the time. People enter into insurance agreement, but there's no guarantee that everybody will have an accident. Can you see? So it's a slow risk, and of course, slow feedback. That is in terms of process culture. So an insurance company falls under process culture. We'll progress. Influences on the development of culture. What are the things that influence the development of an organization's culture? The first one is history. Can you see? The history of an organization. Where are they coming from? Where are they looking at what has happened over the years? How have they learned from history? Can you see? All those things shape the culture of an organization. So history of an organization has a very big impact on a specific organization. Even sometimes also the history of a nation where an organization is situated can of course also impact an organization. But naturally, in terms of this, we're talking about the history of an organization. The journey so far will certainly have a big influence on the organization's culture. Then the next one is primary function and technology. What is the primary function of that organization? Can you see? That will definitely influence their organizational culture. What are their deliverables? Can you see? For instance, a hospital will have a way they deliver their services to patients. Can you see? A bank will have their ways of delivering their services to customers or clients. And of course, a law firm will have a way of delivering their services to clients and all the rest. So different organizations, their primary function will have a big influence on their culture. And of course, the technology of delivering most of this will also have a big influence on their culture. Then the next one is strategy. Can you see? Strategies are tactics. Strategies, like I told you, are a bundle of tactics to counteract your competitors. Can you see? A bundle of tactics. So like I told you last time, that strategy is derived or was derived from the military parlance or from the military institution, where you strategize to see how you can actually counteract your enemy in the battlefield. Can you see? So strategy can also shape the culture of an organization. And of course, in terms of strategy, Porter has been able to give us two strategies of organizational competitive advantage. One is, of course, becoming a cost leader within a particular marketing environment, or becoming a kind of the best in terms of quality. So if you decide to emphasize cost leadership, then definitely you should be able to bring down your price low. Then if you're emphasizing quality, you should be able to convince your customers and of course your client that the product you have, despite the fact that it is expensive, is the best quality in the market. Can you see? So these are two strategies, and such kind of strategy will influence or have a kind of impact on the culture of an organization and people within that particular organization. Then, of course, the size of an organization will have an influence. Can you see? On their culture. Can you see? Will have an influence. If you have a big organization, definitely the emphasis will be bureaucratic culture. Can you see? Definitely you'll be working within, of course, the raw culture. Can you see? In that sense, under such circumstances, definitely there will be a lot of hierarchies in terms of reporting, and there will be a lot of specialization and all the rest. That will influence your culture. But if your organization is a kind of small organization, of course, the focus will be on one individual within that particular organization. If you go back to what we discussed earlier on, that will be a kind of power culture. Can you see? Then the next one will be, if it is a bureaucratic organization, the emphasis will be a kind of a role culture. Can you see? Then the next one is location. Where an organization is located will certainly have an influence on their culture. Can you see? If you're located in a place like, of course, Saudi Arabia, for instance, definitely the culture in Saudi Arabia will influence what you do in your organization within that particular environment. Can you see? So the location of your business will certainly have an influence on your culture. Is that clear? Then, of course, management and leadership. What kind of management and leadership do you have? Do you have an autocratic management or autocratic leader? That will influence our culture. It may become a culture where nobody can actually contribute within that particular environment. Then it can now become a kind of personal culture, like I told you earlier on, or power culture. You see, when it is autocratic. But of course, when it is democratic, certainly people can now be allowed to participate in decisions that affects them. And of course, that will become the norm within the organization and will become the culture of the organization, a culture where views are allowed, a kind of divergent perspectives are encouraged within that particular culture. So management and leadership will have a very powerful influence on the development of culture. And mind you, let me speak about management and leadership once more. Remember that managers, senior managers, top managers and leaders are, of course, one of the founders of the organization also. Some of them may be managing directors, those who were parts and parcel of starting that organization from the beginning. So their behavior, their way of life, the way they think may end up influencing the culture even after the organization have grown into a bigger organization. Can you see? So the original behavior of the top management or the founding managers certainly will have a big impact on the culture of an organization and will have an influence, of course, on the organization's culture. Then the next one is the environment. Environment will, of course, also have an influence in terms of our organization. And when we talk about the environment, we talk about both the market environment, we talk about both the economic environment, we talk about both the biological environment, we talk about technological environment, we talk about, of course, issues related to climate and all that is will certainly influence our culture, what we do within our organization, because we are parts and parcel of the broader environment. Can you see? So we are a kind of a system within the broader system. Is that clear? So our environment where we do our business will certainly influence the development of our culture. Is that clear? All right. Now we'll talk about the cultural web. Cultural web. Can you see? Most of the cultural web then includes symbol. Can you see? Organizations have a kind of symbol, something to symbolize them. That is the organizational symbol. If you see like Madonna, you see a big M. And when you look at like Toyota, you see a kind of some Y or some zero with Y as giving you a kind of a symbol that this is, of course, a Toyota product. So every company have their symbol, which you can just look at and say, oh, this is this organization. So every organization have a symbol. And of course, power structure within organization. Can you see? Is the power concentrated in a single individual or the power is distributed? Can you see? So that is also part of culture within the cultural web, the structuring of power. Then the next one is organizational structure, the structure of an organization. And I told you we have hierarchical organization, and of course we have flat culture, we have borderless organization, we have matrix structure. Can you see all these will have their own uniqueness. So it becomes part of the cultural web. Then we have, of course, a control system. Can you see? Is the organization an organization where the system of control is very rigid, or the system of control is flexible? That becomes, of course, whichever way, that becomes the culture of the organization and forms part of the cultural web of an organization. The rituals, the way they do things, can you see? For instance, if you take a look at the way American Air Force control their flight when they are departing from their airports, I think you will see the ritual that is involved in most of those activities. Those are just part of the culture of that particular environment. The same thing also, the way things are done in some organization, the ritual that is involved, the mannerism. Can you see? Those form part of the cultural web within an organization. Stories that have been told about an organization. Stories, the echoing of stories, and passing the story to the new employees. Can you see? And the new employee take the story to the next new recruits. So those are stories. All these stories continue until they become part of the culture of an organization. So that also forms part of the cultural web. Can you see? All this put together becomes a kind of a paradigm. Can you see? A paradigm which is, of course, a worldview, how people perceive their world and how people live their world. Is that clear? So that is with regards to the cultural web. Culture and organizational control. Culture and organizational control. Can you see? According to ACAS, which is, of course, Advisory Council and Arbitration Services, ACAS distinguishes two different forms of culture. The first one he called control culture. Can you see? Control culture emphasizes rules. Rules must be adhered to, procedures of doing things. Can you see? And control. Things must be strongly controlled within an organization. Control and compliance. People must comply to the rules of the organization. The next one there is, of course, in terms of the second one, which is, of course, quality of work life. Quality of work life culture. The emphasis in terms of quality of work life culture is, of course, the emphasis on core values. Core values. What is the core value of the organization? Can you see? And of course, the mission statement of the organization. What is the mission of the organization? Can you see? In order to use this to provide guidance and commitment. Can you see? Guidance to employee, and of course obtain commitment from them through shared goals. There should be a shared goal. Everybody must have one goal that they share, one focus, one attention, one objective, one mission that they actually want to achieve. And of course, values and traditions. Can you see? Via shared goals, same value, and of course, same tradition. Can you see? So that is the difference between control culture and quality of work-life culture. We progress. Important of culture. What are the importance of culture? Can you see? The pervasive nature of culture will have a significant effect on organization processes, such as decision making. Can you see? Depends on the culture. Can you see? A culture will actually inform whether decision making in an organization is a participative decision making or autocratic decision making. Can you see? So you can get to some organization, the boss, the manager takes a decision. You can get to another organization, the manager builds consensus before decision is taken. So that is culture in action. So different organizations have their different culture in terms of how they make decisions. And of course, culture will also have an influence, or culture will have a significant effect on design of structure, how the organization structure is designed will be influenced by, of course, the culture of the organization. If it is an organization that emphasizes raw culture, which is of course bureaucratic, definitely the structure of the organization will be hierarchical. Can you see? But if it is an organization that emphasizes a kind of people culture, definitely the structure, the hierarchy of structure may be either flat or kind of borderless or matrix culture. Can you see? So the next one is group behavior. Can you see? Group behavior in terms of importance of culture. Culture can influence good behavior, group behavior, how people behave among group. Having a kind of informal group also existing within an organization. So there are organizations that can actually permit informal group to blossom within the organization. There are organizations that may restrict informal group. I will want everybody to act within rationality, can you see, or within formality, can you see. So of course culture can have an effect on on group behavior within an organization. Then another area where culture will have a significant effect is work organization. How do we organize our work? How do we design our work? How do we organize our tasks within the organization? In terms of who report to who, in terms of who does what within the organization, in terms of apportioning the right person to the right job. And you see, definitely our culture within our organization or within a particular organization will influence how we organize work within that particular organization. Then the next one is motivation. Can you see? Motivation, the culture within an organization can either help to spur motivation or mal-motivation. Can you see? To bring about motivation among employees. Whereas there are certain cultures that can also demotivate employees within organizations. So culture will also have an effect on motivation. Then another aspect is job satisfaction. The culture of an organization may also help to bring about job satisfaction, spur job satisfaction within that organization. Whereas also the culture of an organization can also bring a kind of dissatisfaction among employees within a particular organization. Management control, can you see? Culture of an organization can have an influence in terms of managerial control, how managers control employees, can you see? If the culture emphasizes that managers should monitor always or should focus on employee always, should control employee rigidly, certainly that is what we'll be seeing in an organization. But if the organization is to actually give autonomy, can you see, delegate powers, like we have spoken during empowerment, definitely also you will see more of that in organization, can you see? And theories and of course authorities have actually shown that when a manager is so much in control, sometimes there could also be certain challenges within an organization. And you see that when people are given opportunity, freedom to do their work within their own plan, certainly they go very far in terms of doing their work with all satisfaction and bringing positive outcomes or high-level performance to that particular organization. Is that clear? Great. National and international culture. National differences and culture and cultural reasons raise concern about the transferability of organizational best practices across national boundaries. although the outcome national boundaries, although the outward side of work, such as dress, technology, etc., might be increasingly similar regardless of the country of origin. There are many ways in which people can be offended and business propositions damaged if there is not an understanding of the culture of the country in which the activities are being conducted. Can you see? So certainly before you move into a new environment, you must understand the culture of those people within that particular environment. It could be a country, it could be another state, it could be a community, so that you see whether the culture of your organization will fit into the culture of those particular country that you want to venture into, or those particular community that you want to venture into, or those states that you want to venture into, so that if necessary, you should be able to adapt your culture to the cultural norms within a new environment where you want to operate. Is that clear? Fantastic. So, colleagues, I think we will stop here for now and continue after some few minutes again with regards to culture. I think we'll have 2 more slides to round up with the organizational culture topic. Thank you very much.